Hey, welcome back to another web development video. This has been a really huge year for me. 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to become a developer, and I was 31, and I had a new baby, and I knew that I needed a career change, and it took me 4 years in a boot camp, and then I was hired as a developer 1 year ago today. So I have now been a developer for a full 1 year, and I want to talk about some of the things that I learned over the last year. So I'll hop into it here. Things that I learned my first year as a dev. First up, I've learned that I can only improve so fast. This has been really tough for me to accept at times. I'm a fairly hard worker and I've done a lot of different things, and a lot of times the way I conquer things is just work more hours at them. So like if I wanted to get my house floored faster, I just work more hours and work late nights and stuff like that. And same with a project at work. Well, I would just work more hours on it and maybe get some help from some people. But I can only learn so fast. I can only work so many hours to learn code. I can't work 17 hours to learn code, and to be honest, that doesn't always make me learn any faster. So that's been a real struggle. There's only so fast that I can go, and accepting that is tough. Next thing, I don't use algorithms in my job. I've talked about this in some past videos, but I've never used FizzBuzz in a controller at work. I'm glad I've studied algorithms, and I found that my framework knowledge has been way more important than like my Ruby knowledge or my JavaScript knowledge or how to do some of those algorithms. But I don't use them at all in my job. And if you would have told me that when I was first learning to code, then I would have been, wow, I thought I'd be using stuff like that all the time, but I'm not. Next thing I learned, there's a really awesome community of devs on tech Twitter. Like many, I had a Twitter account for years and years, but I literally never posted anything, and I just, basically followed the news on there. But after I learned there was a tech Twitter, I quickly started making some connections, and I really wished I'd known about that when I was struggling to code on my own. There's so many cool people with resources and some encouragement stuff out there, and definitely some great people that can point you in the right direction when you really need some help on some things. So tech Twitter, really cool. I also learned task switching is a productivity killer. Bad. I used to get a PR when I first started my job. I get a pull request, and no matter what time it was, I would start reviewing the pull request, and that was a really bad habit, and it slowed me down really significantly. It took my tasks way longer to complete because I would forget what I was doing. Sometimes, or oftentimes even, I would say it'd break my code base if I had to do something with database migrations, if I was working on something with the database, or if I needed to do something with the database to do the review, then trying to revert it and all that stuff. It definitely slowed me down. I also learned that communication is probably the most important skill. Either updating coworkers on the status of things, like this is done, this is how I tested something, this is why something isn't working. Asking the correct question, using good terminology and being very clear when you ask things or communicate things. That's so extremely important. And I really learned that over this last year as well. I also learned that taking detailed notes with references will save your ass. I've always been a note taker, and at first it just kind of seemed like a good thing to do, but I realized that these notes that I've been taking over all these months were so valuable because obviously, I wanted to hold on to commands and stuff like that, but I realized that some of the stuff that I thought that I would just remember sometimes I didn't, but maybe if I had taken a note on it, I could just look it up real quick. That was really, really helpful. Sometimes it was something that I had to go Google and figure out, and if I documented it, then I had that and I didn't have to go Google it again. And I found out the hard way that it's not always easy to find the thing that you Googled last time, especially when you don't remember what exactly it was you Googled. So detailed notes and references, they're awesome. I also learned that blogging and video blogging, or just regular text blogging, whatever it is a huge accelerator to your growth. I started my blog as an outlet to kind of share my experience as that was recommended to me, but I found that it really forces accountability and growth. I started that job. I started this job, and I thought, I really want to try to take that somewhere and really grow as the best that I can as fast as I can. So I'm going to do one every week. And I found that I had to research and write out topics, and sometimes I use the week's blog posts to help write out my notes on a coding challenge, and sometimes I just wrote my thoughts on a topic, and I ended up with a nice body of work, and I think I've helped a few people along the way. Thanks to Google Analytics, it's really cool that I can see that I have some, a few readers in other countries and around the world and stuff like that. But I really grew a lot because I forced myself to do that every week, and I wasn't always. I didn't write the best blog every week. Sometimes I just wrote, something quick that I threw together because I was tired or didn't have time or something like that. But I still did it, and those count. They really do. I also learned that equipment matters. I code best on 2 large monitors with a full-size keyboard and a wireless mouse. And I made the mistake when I first started working of going, okay, I'll use a wired mouse and I will just use the monitor that provided me at work and my tiny 13-inch laptop monitor. And with COVID, we were all forced to work from home. And I was lucky enough to continue working from home, I guess I should say. And I went back to the setup that I had when I first started learning code, which is 2 nice monitors, side by side, a couple of 21-inch monitors that are exactly the same, and a wireless mouse. And my productivity shot through the roof because I could have the windows open that I wanted to, and I was very comfortable with it. So that was definitely eye-opening for me. And I always worked on 2 monitors, but I just thought with coding I could probably just get away with one, big giant 24-inch monitor or something like that. But no, I definitely need the two monitors. And to be honest, more power to you if you can code everything and do all your work on a tiny 13-inch laptop. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. And I'm impressed by anybody that can actually do that. I need the big monitors. Next thing I learned is you got to take your performance enhancers, and that's a lot to say. And if you haven't noticed by now, I do these videos all in one take because, or at least as of now, maybe eventually I'll cut them up, but I don't want to take the time to go through and edit stuff. But performance enhancers: exercise, sleep, good work area, right? Your music, your lighting, your equipment, they all really contribute. And I've noticed that if I pay attention to these things, I am much more effective. And then plus, doing hobbies outside of that code, outside of that programming and stuff like that. I've gone through months where I'm unable to give attention to any other hobby, and my work suffered for it. So I'm just much less excited about the grind when it's a pure grind. I also learned that writing a blog post every week became a chore. After a couple of months of blogging, I felt like I overloaded myself, but I made that commitment, and I've already talked about how I felt that helped me grow, and I'm glad that I did. But it is so much work to write every week, especially when you don't feel like it, you don't have time. I also realized that having a self-development plan is the most important thing you can do for growth. I think especially in a technical field, because in development there's so many different areas and directions you can go in, and if you're just wandering around, it's hard to go in any direction, much more in development than say project management, because when I was doing project management stuff I could kind of learn about anything and it would all tie in together. But if I go look at a different language or whatever, it doesn't help me in my current job. So there's just so much. So having written clear goals of where you want to go and what you want to do and how you're going to get there really, really helps. And I also learned that there's a lot of example code and useful pages in GitHub. When I first started coding, I thought GitHub was to store code bases and for projects. And one day when I was Googling, I found some interesting Markdown files containing some public notes on some code, and I started searching GitHub for example code and notes, and it's been extremely valuable, and it was one of the things that was very eye-opening for me. And that's it. That's my list. Those are the things that I've learned over the last year, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.